Make sure you tap that. Make sure you follow me. If you want game.
Twitch chat Wardog message over. Just gonna switch you guys to a live scene. I do apologize. You are gonna have to put up with me sharing the entire display, so you're gonna see things like doubled up Streamlabs and stuff where necessary. What I wanted to do today, I've just seen that Police 1013 has stopped development. I will preface this by saying that I am, or I guess was, a Project Blue Line backer. For the life of me, I cannot figure out how much I donated. I think it was about 250 quid. It was quite a substantial amount, but it was by no means the highest possible tiers that they had. I cannot find my emails and stuff from doing that. Um, I don't know. I've tried to go through Police 1013's website and get into the back end where Project Blue Line members could go, and at some point they've switched over to WordPress, and now I just get stuck in an almost endless loop of trying to log in, and I'm not going to do that. I am, or was, a Project Blue Line backer for a sum of money, not in excess of 250 quid, but certainly in excess of 30. And honestly, I can't tell you which one it was. Um, but that's kind of beside the point. Point is, I backed this game 6 years ago, when this game was first looking like it was coming out. I was one of the first people to start following it. I was one of the last people to jump on PBL. I jumped on PBL when Matt started saying that they were gonna close it down because I wanted to put money in, but I was very aware. Um, I didn't want to put too much money in without knowing what I was going to get. But when PBL looked like it was going to go, I jumped on because I wanted to put my money in. I wanted to see this game. There is no more Discord for Police 1013. By all accounts, Matt personally has deleted it, closed it down. The social media pages and everything like that. There are announcements and links to this video right here, which is a video from Matt Norman, Wingman Games, on their YouTube channel, where Matt talks for 16 minutes about choosing to end the project. I've watched this video. I'm not going to watch it again with you guys, purely because it links to 5 videos, 3 from Big Fry TV and 2 from Sid Alpha, and I've watched all of those as well. And all in all, it's probably close to 2 hours worth of video. Matt's is 16, Big Fry's last one is half an hour, and then they're about 10 minutes, so it's maybe closer to 90 minutes. But there's a lot of information to watch. So I'm not going to watch them all again, but I did want to show you guys them. So this one, Police 1013, Wingman Games, that's the announcement that the game is finishing, and Matt very nicely links to all 5 of the other videos that are involved in this. I never followed Police 1013 very closely. I was in the Discord, but I very rarely said anything. I didn't even go in there very much because for me, I understood what Matt Norman wanted people to understand. What Matt Norman in this video says he wished people understood, which is that this takes time and things aren't going to be instant. You're not going to get instant gratification. And I understood that. And so, for my own kind of sanity, I didn't follow Police 1013 too closely. I basically backed it and then was in the Discord. I liked the Facebook page. I was signed up to the forums, but I never went in any of these places because for me it was clear that this game was still years away, and despite being in development for nearly 7 years, was always years away. And I was fine with that. I didn't mind. I wouldn't have cared if this took 10 years. For clarification, I backed Emerge NYC when that first came out. I'm one of its biggest backers, as far as I know. And that's probably been in development for 6-7 years. It's great that we've got something playable from Emerge NYC. I love that. They're definitely making progress. Raf's got a vision and he wants to deliver it. But again, that is a game that's going to take time. And I understand that it is going to take time. So I'm perfectly fine with it taking time. I didn't follow things too closely. I started off by watching Matt's video, this one. And in it, he calls to arms. I mean, I'll mute the sound and let it run just so the background changes. It's just screenshots of Police 1013 assets, stuff that they've produced, or if once you've watched Big Fry and Sid Alpha's videos, maybe not stuff that they've produced. Where I kind of was sitting was like, I'll just wait, right? And I've seen a couple of things from that in the past. In its first 2-3 years, I was following development a little bit more closely. I was definitely paying more attention to the Facebook page. I don't pay a lot of attention to Facebook anyway now, in general, so I don't see much of the Facebook stuff. But when I was on Facebook a lot more, I did see stuff from Wingman, and from Matt, it could sometimes feel abrasive. And genuinely, if you are even remotely interested in what's going on with this, I highly recommend that you watch Matt's video where he talks about the pains of development that I completely sympathize with. Talks about how it takes a long time and it's a long process and people are very impatient. And he talks about how the internet is toxic, and certain people for sure are toxic, and I don't disagree with any of that. He's absolutely right, and it is awful, and it's not right that people are that toxic. And certainly some of the things that Matt says people have said to him, and I will say says because I haven't seen them, but Big Fry TV even admits that he's seen people say stuff like they hope that he dies of cancer and slowly, which is apparently something that was said to him. That kind of thing is just unacceptable. You know, if somebody who says things like that happens to see this video, I just want you to know that's unacceptable. You are a horrific human being and you need to stop talking like that. The internet's anonymity is not a shield for you to be a jackass. But, and this is the big but, Matt kind of rolls those people in with Big Fry TV and Sid Alpha. His video, I mean, the description literally points to the two of them. Please thank the following YouTubers and their fans for the reason Police 1013 is no longer. And I highly recommend for your own clarity that you watch Matt's video and don't just take what I'm paraphrasing as gospel. But in essence, Matt says these people, Big Fry TV, Sid Alpha, and others, are the reason that Police 1013 is no longer. And I accept that to him that might be the case. right? He's struggled with mental health. He had a brain tumor last year, for anybody who doesn't know, which he had to have operated on. Apparently, through watching these videos, I've also learned that he's bipolar, which I understand is a serious mental illness that he needs to contend with. And I'm not trying to take away from how much shit Matt has gone through and how much shit people on the internet are putting or have put Matt through with regards to the development of Police 1013. But him rolling the people in YouTube comments in with Big Fry TV and Sid Alpha is just not the right path. It's not correct. Big Fry TV, as far as I'm aware, and if somebody shows me otherwise, then I'll do another stream where I say turns out I was wrong. But as far as I'm aware, Big Fry TV and Sid Alpha have never personally said anything akin to wishing that Matt Norman would die of cancer or anything like that. And good, because if they did, I'd be calling them despicable human beings, which is in essence what Matt Norman does in this video. Is he lumps them in with the same crowd of people and points out that because they've pointed out flaws in his development, the game development, that they are somehow to blame and to be considered equal to the scumbags who are telling him to die and making death threats and threatening his family, apparently. I don't doubt that this stuff goes on in YouTube comments and Facebook posts and all of this, because people on the internet, some of them are just despicable human beings. I'm never going to say that the veracity of Matt's claims is in doubt in that regard. There definitely will have been people that have said this horrible shit, because there always is people that say this horrible shit. Does that mean it's right? No. But that doesn't mean that Matt can lump them in with the people who own the videos on which they're commenting. Now, Big Fry has his last video is literally that's not the right one. Apologies. I've lost it. There we go. Big Fry's last video is a half-an-hour video where he talks about Matt's video, this 15-minute video, and having watched all of Big Fry TV's videos and all of Sid Alpha's videos, I want to say neither of them are wrong. What they've pointed out in regards to the development is certainly questionable. Apparently, Police 1013 used a lot of pre-purchased, excuse me. They used a lot of pre-purchased assets. Wow, I don't know why that was so hard for me to say. And I'm not going to say it again. But they used a lot of assets that they'd already bought, that was already made for them, that they didn't build in-house. And both Big Fry and Sid Alpha have pointed out that given that Matt Norman's developer diaries appeared to be showcasing these assets as in-house dev work, that is wrong and questionable, and I agree with them on that. I think Sid more than Big Fry, but Big Fry certainly alluded to it, both said if indie devs use pre-purchased assets to build and showcase their game, which they plan in time to replace with in-house stuff, that's fine. That's kind of why that's kind of why these assets exist. Is because I believe it was Sid said, why reinvent the wheel? It's already been done. So if you're just looking to get a workable build that you can showcase people your idea and your concept, then why not use these pre-built assets? And I agree. But I also agree with them on the concept that showcasing these assets as here's where we're at with development is wrong, and it shouldn't be done that way. I do think there's a difference between the way Big Fry and Sid Alpha have both presented their arguments, and certainly in Big Fry's half-an-hour video where he responds to Matt's final video, I will say I feel like Sid Alpha is a consummate professional at no point, despite the fact that at the end of his first of the two videos, he does get a little bit more forceful in his speech. It's certainly not incorrect, and he doesn't allow emotion to take over. He also acknowledges that Matt has struggles and that Matt was attempting at the time to make changes, and he supported Matt in attempting to make those changes. Big Fry, a little bit less sympathy, a little bit less empathy, is a little bit more kind of I don't believe that this game's ever going to get made. It's a scam for that reason, because it will never get made. Matt Norman is a horrible person, which I'm going to get onto because this is the key revelation for me. The one thing I will say about Big Fry's half an hour long video here is there's only really one point where Big Fry kinda says if people are being scumbags, they need to not be scumbags. Like, whatever people are saying in the comments, they need to stop. What he says several times is, that's not on me. Now, he's completely right that it isn't on him. If people from his comment section or in his comment section or from his fan base go and say something to Matt Norman, it's not on Big Fry. However, I do feel like he should have made greater strides in this video to condemn the people that do that, because there's only really one point in the video where he kind of condemns it, and other than that, he just says, it's not on me. Probably half a dozen times. It's not on me. If people do that, it's not on me. And it's true and correct that it isn't on him, but as the influencer, which is the term that Matt Norman uses as if it's a swear word, as the influencer, I do think it is on Big Fry to remind his audience that this stuff is not acceptable, guys. I know I didn't tell you to go and say this, but I'm telling you now not to go and say it, because just as human beings, it's unacceptable to do. And I don't think Big Fry makes a very concerted effort at all to do that. What he does is remove himself from the blame and then just kind of stands back and Pontius Pilates it and puts his hands up and says, I didn't write it. Well, that's right and correct, Big Fry, but they're your audience and they will listen to you, and I think you do have a moral responsibility to remind them that that kind of thing isn't acceptable. At the same time, the big crux of this whole thing, which I was completely unaware of, is that probably the most toxic person involved in this whole thing, and I don't like using the word toxic, I can't actually remember whether it's Big Fry or Sid Alpha, but one of them says that they don't like using the word toxic because of what it's come to mean, and I don't like using it for the same reason, because a lot of people say, oh, you don't agree with me, you're toxic. No, that's not how that works. However, Matt Norman makes a point of saying that toxic people and YouTube influencers are the reason that Police 1013 is shut down. It's all because of toxic people. It's because toxic people have done this and toxic people have said that. And whilst, again, I'm not dismissing that certain people have probably said things that are despicable and shouldn't have been said and should never be said and are just downright wrong, I'm not dismissing that that's happened at all. However, I highly recommend that you do what I did this morning, which is watch this video from Matt Norman, the 15-minute one, then open all 5 of the videos that he has linked in the comments, which is 3 from Big Fry and 2 from Sid Alpha, and then go and find Big Fry's latest one that addresses this video in particular. Watch this first, watch Big Fry and Sid Alpha's videos in chronological order, so I think it's 2 from Big Fry, 2 from Sid Alpha, then 2 from Big Fry again. Watch them, because there are screenshots in there of the way that Matt Norman has spoken to people, both publicly and privately, that I think are the prime reason that this game has died. He spends 15 minutes talking about how toxic people and unnecessary criticism and attacks, personal attacks, are the reason that he is suffering, that his mental health is suffering, and that he can't continue anymore. And again, I'm not belittling or dismissing that some people probably have said things, or almost certainly have said things that shouldn't have been said and are downright wrong. However, watch Big Fry and Sid's videos, particularly after the first two of each. Big Fry's first video is much more of, he's actually quite positive about Police 1013, I thought, and he's very much supportive. And both of them acknowledge the fact that last year Matt had a brain tumor that had to be operated on, and that's going to affect the development of a game for an indie dev. And that people need to be more forgiving of it. But there are screenshots of the way that Matt speaks to people publicly and privately, and it's really not hard. Like, I've been through some of the comment sections on these videos and seen the way that Matt speaks to people in the comment sections for myself, so I know it's not a screenshot. I know it can't have been photoshopped. I looked at it, and the most toxic person in this whole situation is Matt. And I'm saying that as somebody who was a Project Blue Line backer. I didn't know that that's how Matt spoke to people, but I completely supported Police 1013. I wanted to see this game made, and in terms of his vision, I completely support Matt. Like, I don't want anyone to think that I'm, that I don't like Matt, or I don't like Police 1013, or I thought it was a scam from the start. I am saying this as somebody who has essentially, if you want to draw a line, changed sides. And I ironically have done that because in this video, Matt himself, and in his description, calls his audience to action in a manner that he accuses Big Fry and Sid Alpha of doing, and yet neither of them, to my knowledge, have. He calls his audience and his community and his support base to action to go to these two YouTubers and fight back. That is Matt's own words. Fight back against this. And he kind of also lumps in the people that are making despicable comments, and I do think if people are making despicable comments that people should fight back. We shouldn't as a society accept anyone who goes somewhere and says, I hope you die of cancer slowly. That person needs to be buried under people not attacking them with the same level of vitriol, but they need to be buried under people saying, this is not acceptable, you need to stop. That's not how society should work. However, Matt's called his own community to action, and as a member of Matt's community, up until I guess he closed the community, I went to these videos. I didn't go there to leave comments. I went there because I wanted to understand where Matt was coming from, and I expected that I would go there, watch these videos and think, oh my god, I can't believe these people attacked him in this manner, and I completely understand why he's walked away. I still completely understand why he's walked away, because he's clearly suffering, and he should definitely do what is best for him. He shouldn't force himself to continue with something that is making him ill and making him consider suicide. There's no reason whatsoever that anyone should put themselves through that. But I expected to go and watch Big Fry and Sid Alpha's videos and think, these two guys are absolute scumbags. I can't believe that they were like this. And what happened was I went there and watched the videos and was kind of at first like, well, okay, they're critical of the game and critical of the lengthy development process, which I'm personally okay with, but I get why people would criticize it. And I found myself thinking, I don't get it yet. I don't see it. Maybe it's in the later videos, so I go and watch the later videos. And this is why I recommend that you watch them in chronological order, because at first it just feels like they're criticizing the game. And then they start to criticize Matt Norman. Now, I understand why Matt construes this as a personal attack, because they start to bring into question Matt Norman's professionalism and Matt Norman's personal attitude and the level of vitriol that he personally throws at other people in screenshots that they show. And I will say, I don't like screenshots can be photoshopped, anybody can make them up. I'm not saying that this information is 100% genuine because I've only seen it secondhand on their videos, okay? So I'm going to preface with that. But I'm assuming that these screenshots are genuine because there's not really any reason to make them up, which I don't believe that. In Matt's video, he does say that people make up lies, but I'm just beginning to doubt how much of it is lies and how much of it is people criticizing Matt and Matt getting defensive. Again, he has bipolar disorder, and he had a brain tumor last year, which if anybody thinks that you can have a brain tumor without it affecting your mental chemistry, you're wrong. It will. And even just, I know personally that recovery from big surgery, I had heart surgery in early 2017, so I know that the recovery process from surgery, let alone brain surgery, is draining, and it changes the way you think and the way you behave, and absolutely you have very limited amounts of energy, to the point where your recovery is essentially the only thing you can do, because focusing on anything else is nigh on impossible. So, you know, he has got genuine barriers that make this difficult for him, but I don't believe that that is an excuse for some of the things that you will see if you watch Big Fry and Sid Alpha's videos. Some of these screenshots of Matt calling people bitches and just swearing at them and insinuating that, you know, that they're defaming him and threatening them with lawsuits, and it's a very unprofessional way for a lead developer and frontman of a company, like whether it's an indie dev or EA. If EA put out a community manager in front of people who on camera was perfectly fine, but then people were surfacing with screenshots of him calling them bitches and asking what they're moaning about and telling them to shut the fuck up and stuff like this, that community manager would be fired. There's no way that that company would keep him on. But because Matt Norman is the head of Wingman Games, or was, I guess is probably the better term, nobody's going to fire him. So what happens is he just continues to be a really bad public relations manager for Police 1013. And this is what the crux of Big Fry and Sid Alpha's criticism shifted to. It very quickly, after the first couple of videos, shifts from, this game has been in development for 7 years, it's been very slow going, and they're showcasing pre-purchased assets as developed work, and that's wrong, into, so we pointed the finger at Police 1013 and essentially got attacked by Matt Norman, and it turns out we're not the only people that Matt Norman's attacked, and the list of people that feel like Matt's attacked them, or that they've got clear evidence of Matt attacking them or threatening them, just seem to grow and grow. The more videos that Big Fry and Sid Alpha put out, and the longer the time passed, to the point where it started to become clear as I was watching these videos. And again, I didn't follow Police 1013 remotely closely. I was in the Discord, but I barely ever checked it. Every time I checked it, there were so many announcements and stuff that I couldn't read them all, and I usually just skim read the last 3 or 4. But it now starts to make sense why Matt seemed to have difficulty maintaining a team. His developers and his community managers and his mods would frequently come on board, be there for a few months. It'd be like, it's so great, we've got a developer now, and then they would disappear. usually without fanfare. And it it now is perfectly clear. Um, just before this happened in sort of April May time, they took on a couple of developers called Sam Cook and a guy called Ricky. Sam Cook apparently worked on For Honor at Ubisoft. They were UK-based developers, and Matt Norman took them on. They were there for a few months, and then they quit. And in one of Big Fry's videos, which again I do highly recommend that you watch every video that I've listed, Matt's, all of Big Fry's, all of Sid Alpha's. I recommend you watch them so that you're not just taking information from me second hand or third hand now, I guess. But the Sam and Ricky quit Police 1013 as developers because they didn't like the public image that was being put out by Matt. Now, Matt kind of angles the blame at this onto Big Fry and Sid Alpha because they're the ones who made videos about it. Well, in my book, and Matt, I say this as somebody who completely backed you and somebody who does not at all condone any of the truly vitriolic things that you've been subjected to. In my book, they have every right to point at your behavior. You are the CEO of Wingman Games. You are the project lead. You are the principal point of marketing. And if you're walking around in YouTube comments and Facebook comments and private DMs saying these things, then Big Fry and Sid have every right to point that out. And it's not their fault. They're not to blame for people discovering that this image exists. You are. You're the one putting the image out there. You're the one saying these things. And I think that that needs to be the focus. It's not somebody's fault for pointing it out. It's the person who's doing the thing that's to blame. And Sam and Ricky, Sam apparently posted a statement in the 1013 Discord saying that he's leaving because of the public image. And again, in Big Fry's video, this is all third-hand information at this point. It's just my thoughts. Sam then was deleted from the Discord and banned. Everything he said was removed, including the announcement that him and Ricky were leaving. And I mean, Wingman Games is not a big company. There's only one way of going about this. It has to be Matt that did it. It clearly wasn't somebody else. And I just think, as on a personal level, I think that the attacks that Matt Norman has been subjected to are wholly wrong and unacceptable, and that when he says people should fight back, they absolutely should fight back against comments like that, where it's just not acceptable from a human standpoint to try and hurt somebody in that manner. That shouldn't happen, and that is wrong. But I do think that Matt needs to reflect on who it is that caused certain issues. The horrific people with the horrific comments like dying of cancer and making death threats and threatening his family, whoever those people are, there's no excuse for them, there's no defense for it. They are horrible people and they need to stop. But Matt, you need to separate those people from your critics. You need to separate them from Big Fry and Sid Alpha and anybody else that's criticized Police 1013. I understand that it hurts when people criticize what you've made and what you've built, and that some people maybe don't realize that you've put a lot of effort into building Wingman Games and building the project, not just what's physically displayed on the screen. So when people are criticizing for, oh, it's an overuse of assets and they haven't done any dev work, well, I know you've done dev work. There's dev work on my screen right now. This stuff, I'm pretty sure, is not pre-purchased assets. I know you've done dev work, and I know that the building Wingman Games as a company takes time and effort, and given that you were doing it as a one man team at some point for quite a while, that is, substantial, and I'm acknowledging it because I feel like some people maybe didn't, and that maybe you feel that that acknowledgement was um, necessary, and I agree. You've worked hard to get this to where it's at, but that doesn't mean that it's immune to criticism, genuine criticism, and beyond the game being due criticism, the way that Matt Norman, the way that you have behaved in the last few years, personally and from a professional standpoint, is unacceptable. If you want me to condemn the people that are telling you these horrific things and that are attacking you and sending death threats and threatening your family, I will happily condemn those people. But for the same reasons, I have to condemn the front man of a project that I've backed, who I've seen delete his developer for quitting and leaving a statement, and who I've seen, alright, third hand, I accept, but who I've seen telling somebody who's backed the project to shut the fuck up and asking what they're bitching and moaning about because they were questioning why announcements were getting deleted. That kind of behavior is in the same barrel. It might not be as deep, but it's in the same barrel as people who deservingly should be challenged by your community, by people outside of your community. Just anyone with a decent moral compass should be challenging these people, but they also should be challenging you, Matt. And that's exactly what Big Fry and Sid Alpha did in their videos. They challenged you and said this behavior is unacceptable. Now, I again concede that even in his latest video, Big Fry doesn't do a great job of condemning the people who've been saying stuff, and I do think for professionalism's sake, if he's gonna condemn Matt Norman's behavior, he needs to outright condemn the people that are sending death threats and threatening his family and wishing that he dies of cancer and all of this. Those people need to be condemned, Big Fry, just as much as Matt does for what he's been saying, and you haven't done a great job of that so far. Sid Alpha, from what I've seen, has been pretty much the consummate professional about this, even though he himself says, I'm not a journalist, I don't need to be a consummate professional. I still think he has been, and I'm hoping, because I'm guessing that he will cover this development that Police 1013 has closed. I do think he'll do another video, and I'm hoping that in that video he does condemn the people that have been saying these things to Matt Norman or about Matt Norman. It's wrong and it shouldn't happen. But at the end of the day, I think Matt needs to accept his share and acknowledge that his share of the responsibility is quite large, because that's why your dev team quit, Matt. That's why it seems that your community manager and your Discord mods didn't want to stay. Uh, I'm not going to say that's why you've been receiving attacks, because you'll probably receive attacks from certain people anyway, no matter what, because they're just despicable humans. But that's why Big Fry and Sid Alpha have done videos on your professionalism, because there just wasn't any in those screenshots. There just generally wasn't any attempt made at developing a public image. And I think if you were a smarter or perhaps more savvy CEO of Wingman Games, you would have realized long before now, I am not the best person to be on social media. I am not the best person to be in YouTube comments. I am not the best person to be replying to people that have criticisms or questions about things. I should hire somebody to do that bit for me, because I'm not in a good state of mind to do it. And I think ultimately that's why Matt Norman needs to accept responsibility for the fact that Police 1013 has ended where it is because you were the overall project lead, Matt. And if you didn't employ somebody to to do this bit, to do the bit that you were clearly not suited for. Like, I don't know how good your personal dev skills are. You've said before that you were becoming quite an apt modeler and things like that. Fine, do that. But you absolutely, the way that you've presented yourself publicly is shocking, to be honest. And I think as a project lead, you should have appointed somebody else to do that for you. I understand that money doesn't grow on trees. You only have a limited budget, and that you've talked about the constraints of budgeting and that you struggled to get people on the team. But I don't know. I just feel like not accepting that your personal attitude is at least in part to blame for where you've ended up is just not the right choice. And as a Project Blue Line backer, I am disappointed that Police 1013 is no longer a thing and that it won't be made because I wanted it to be made. That's why I backed it. But I'm also sorely disappointed that I didn't realize sooner that this is how the project lead, the creator of something that should have been so wonderful and I think genuinely would have been great no matter what state it was released in, that I'm ashamed that I gave money to this person who was stomping around the internet, throwing insults at other devs for doing things that allegedly he himself is doing, for stomping around the internet, criticizing people in such a toxic manner, Matt. I don't like the word toxic, but the way that you speak to some of these people that you yourself are calling toxic or have called toxic, it is toxic vitriol. There's no other way about it. It's so upsetting that that was happening, and for me it doesn't mean that you're not a great creator. It doesn't mean that at home you're not a wonderful person and that your friends think you're great. I'm sure you are, but from a professional standpoint, as the head of Wingman Games, you should have removed yourself from the situation a long time ago. That should never have been allowed to happen. And in terms of development of the game, I think Big Fry makes a point that, you know, the fact that the roadmap shows you were working on the SWAT kill house and stuff like that, and it's been a long time, and again, the time for me is irrelevant, but I think there should have been more of a development plan. You knew from the start you couldn't get all of this out in one go, and I think that you've been crippled by wanting to have everything perfect. It should have started off as, we're going to release Police Patrol, right? We're going to make sure that we get it right and it's going to be done properly. But essentially at first, all you're going to be able to do is be a police patrolman. You're going to go out, do, the calls that the patrolmen were going to do. I don't know why you started with SWAT, if I'm honest. I don't know why the SWAT kill house and the SWAT officer were the first thing being worked on. It doesn't make sense to me, if you're making a police simulator, that you would choose a job that is so rarely utilized in the police world, or at least in terms of the common job, which is patrolman. Like, SWAT is just, they most of the time in the US, SWAT are on patrol as patrolmen. They're not doing SWAT things. I just don't understand why that was chosen to be the first thing. But it doesn't really matter now because the game is done. I do think mistakes were made in terms of planning the development, but I think the biggest mistake, Matt, and you need to own it, was the way that you presented yourself publicly, and that has eventually bitten back. And whatever degree you associate with Big Fry and Sid Alpha's videos affecting Police 1013's development, the truth of the matter is, all they would have had if you had not been on these public platforms making these comments, all they would have had was, this is a game that uses a lot of assets and has been in development for 6 years, and I don't understand what they've been doing. But instead, you gave them a whole angle, which was the project lead and owner and creator of this concept is projecting exactly what he does onto other people, and I, I'm I'm ashamed and disappointed that I even gave money to that person. I'm proud that I gave money to this project, and I hope that eventually we'll see a project like Police 1013 get finished. I'd like, even if it was Police 1013, if you take a couple of years and you figure things out and you come back and choose to, reuse what you've got so far and try and build it up properly this time, and learn from the mistakes of the past. I would love it if that happens. I'm proud to have supported Police 1013. I'm proud to have been a Project Blue Line member for that reason, but I am incredibly disappointed in Matt Norman, uh, as a person, as a professional in the games industry. I cannot condone the behaviour at all, and I think that it's been the most damaging thing for Police 1013. So again, I'm going to end the stream. Um, for anybody who's in the chat, I'll reboot and we'll just have a general chit chat because I want to get this on YouTube as well, I think. But I want to end the stream by saying anyone who has genuinely personally attacked Matt Norman or his family or his staff or his team, you people need to get a grip. You need to realize that that's not acceptable in society. Um, but anyone who's attacked the project, in terms of criticizing it, I don't I don't think that they have anything to apologize for. I don't think Big Fry TV or Sid Alpha have anything that they are personally responsible for, other than Big Fry perhaps not condemning those who are uh, genuinely making personal attacks as much as I would have liked him to. I feel that on a professional level he should be condemning that behavior so that everybody knows he doesn't condone it, because it's one thing to not commit said behavior, Big Fry, but it's another to omit to condemn it as well. And you've accused Matt of lying by omission, and you're correct. But at the same time, condoning by omission is pretty much a thing. Your audience, your community, they're gonna think, well, Big Fry's not doing it, and he's said it's not his fault. So I'm gonna go say whatever I want to say, and that doesn't come back on Big Fry because he didn't say it, and I don't care because I'm hiding behind an anonymous tag. You need to take a stand there. But otherwise, I don't think Big Fry and Sid Alpha have anything to apologise for. And I think I wasted money supporting someone who really shouldn't have been in the public eye. So I want to thank you guys that have hung out in the stream. I want to thank anybody who watches this video after the fact. Please do watch all of the Big Fry and Sid Alpha videos, and Matt Norman's apology as well, or announcement that the game has ended. He does apologize in it for it ending. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much for the time being. It's going to be Wardog out.